Well, hello and welcome back to the VOV Network. So, I have a question for you. How is your mental and emotional health, your mental and emotional bandwidth these days? With everything that we have going on in the world, from the way the economy is to dealing with the remnants of the pandemic, maybe different things happening with family, your career, etc., etc., etc. All kinds of different things that are coming in, impacting and bombarding your mental and emotional health. That's what we're going to get into today is we're going to talk about some different ways, make sure you have a good action plan, give you some input and some feedback on what we've been doing for the last 90 days with our action plans to make sure that we're all on a positive track to have a strong mental bandwidth capacity. So stick around. Let's get into it. Well, welcome back, everyone. If this is your first time at the VOV Network, my name is Brian, and we're going to dive directly today into talking about mental bandwidth, your mental capacity, both from a mental and emotional standpoint, what that's all about, and really an action plan, and talking about what some of the different things that you can do to continue to make sure that you support yourself, keep your mental bandwidth strong, and moving in the right direction. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
Oh, great. Good morning.
Welcome. So that's what we're going to get into today. Any one of you want to share a little bit more about why we felt this is a good subject and a good time to kind of revisit, especially considering we were here talking about this exactly 90 days ago.
You want to go ahead, Chauntae?
Sure. I think it's so important for all of the reasons that Brian mentioned earlier. Just the pandemic that's still kind of lingering, and now the economy just on its heels is out of whack. I say it's losing its mind. Just many illnesses. Monkeypox is now making its way into the country. And that those are just the big things. There are other smaller things that people are having to deal with on an individual level. I
Mhm.
think it's just important. The mind controls the man, and so if we don't talk about the mind and the things that affect the mind, we lose entire people. So I think it's a really, really, really good time for this conversation. And I mean, 90 days after the first, you can't beat that, right?
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. It's 90 days to the day. So this is
Yeah.
a perfect time to kind of review where we've been. Bridget, what do you think?
Well, I can't believe it's been 90 days, first of all. And everything that Shantae said as well, I will say that because of all the different illnesses that are coming into this country now, we've been on high alert, look like forever. And every time that we get a little relaxed or lax, here comes something else, and not just nationwide but individually as well. And so it's very important, as Chante said, to talk it out. And so the last 3 months we have been, all of our sessions have definitely been related to the mental health part of your life. And so coming full circle back to the 90 days and seeing what we have done in our own personal journey and then hearing from others, it's going to be very important for someone that just came on for the first time.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's dive into it. I'm bringing the slides and really just want to do a quick review. So this is your first time and you didn't see the previous session, which I highly recommend you go back and watch that about mental bandwidth and what's your frequency is the video for that. Just a quick review of what we mean by mental bandwidth and where the challenges can come from. So as this slide shows, we're really talking about the different mental and emotional things that are just being bombarding you, coming in from all kinds of different places and sources in your life. Think of it like a funnel, as this graphic shows. All of that's going into the top of the funnel. And then, as you know, a funnel gets narrow as it goes toward the bottom. And that's where the pinch point is. And that's what we're talking about. That's the point of where you can start to feel overwhelmed. You can start to feel stressed. You can start to have some anxieties and many other things that can start to have an impact on you. And that's that point of mental bandwidth. So, what we want to talk about today is some of the things we've done with our action plans to help us with that pinch point and to do one of two things: either better control the different things that are going into the top or better manage as it comes down to the bottom and actually make the width of that pinch point a little bit wider so we can have more capacity, have more mental bandwidth, and move forward from that standpoint. What any questions on this before we kind of jump in and get going with our feedback that we want to share with the listeners?
No, I think it's very important to put that mental and emotional input before this 3 months. I really didn't think about how effective that was for us, and the pinching point, as you mentioned, and how it can expand so much, almost like a balloon where we're about to bust, and because we're holding it so much in. So these 3 months for me, as we go into it, I'll discuss more, has just been pivotal in kind of peeling off some layers, and I guess taking control of what I can control and then releasing what I
Mm-hmm.
cannot. And so
Mhm.
I think that is where we come in on the mental and emotional input, how we determine the two, and sometimes we don't know how to do that. So I think
Mhm.
this is very important.
Yep, I
Mhm.
agree. I absolutely agree. So let's talk about the plan itself, right? Because that was one of the things that we really want to get into today. And this next slide kind of just gives an outline of the different components of the plan. So, Bridget, do you mind just kind of running through that real quick? Because I know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the plan of action to channel your mental health, and this is what we've gone through for the last 3 months, practicing these different nuggets, components. Think of this plan as your mental bandwidth garden, and so that's where we came up with the word cultivate. And what would you like to plant and grow to help? So the first thing is cultivate trust, faith, and belief. The
Mhm.
second is cultivate a resilient spirit. The next is cultivate play and rest. And we're going to go through all of these as we go on. Cultivate calm and stillness. And then lastly, cultivate meaningful work.
Absolutely. Yeah. All very relevant. And as I said, we're gonna dive deeper and start to give some examples of what that's really all about and what we've done over these past few months. And again, I can't believe it's been 90 days already. So I agree
Mhm.
with you on that. Before we start that, let's just do a quick roundtable and kind of introduce ourselves for those who this might be their first time joining us. So my name is Brian. I am the founder of the Village of Voices and also the VOV Network. And I'm joined today by two wonderful co hosts. So, Bridget, would you introduce yourself there?
Hello, I am Bridgit Kinney. I am the founder and director of Building Bridges Mentor and Outreach Program, and also Beautiful Girls Mentor Program.
Welcome.
Hello,
Chauntae,
all. I am Chauntae Hollins. I am the founder of the Chauntology Speaks experience, which is something new that I've developed. But I am a certified master life coach, and I help people transform their lives from the inside out.
excellent. Well, welcome again to both of you today. And so let's just dive in. And this is just going to kind of be a roundtable. I really just want to kind of have us discuss and share kind of what we went through, kind of go down the list category by category. And what I did for me is obviously there were some things on my plan, and I kind of bullet pointed at least one specific thing under each category that either I had some good success with or some challenges with. And I just want to kind of talk that through. So I'll start and then we'll kind of run from there. So under the first category, we're talking about, cultivating trust, faith, and belief. And my thing that I have been really focusing on for myself has been self belief, right? Just really having that self confidence, self belief, um, that no matter what the situation, what arises, et cetera, that I have the wherewithal and trust within myself that I can figure out a way, manage it, and get through it. And it's been a roller coaster. And I mean, that's the best answer I can give to that, just from a mental standpoint. And there have been those peaks where I felt like, oh, I got this, everything's under control, and I'm managing it. And then there's been those valleys where it's been like, I don't even know what to do next, right? And it's almost a state of being paralyzed. So that's one of the things that I'll share from a mental bandwidth standpoint. And as we work our way through this, just to say that it's not always going to be sunshine. You
Mhm.
have to work your way through that and find a balance for you in the different categories and the different things that you put down, but also understand that if it was easy, everybody would do it. And
Right.
that's one way to definitely look at it. So
Right.
under the category of trust, faith and belief, and when I said self belief, that's really where I've struggled the most.
I would say, in reference to cultivating trust, belief, and I would say in the last year, and more specifically in the last 3 months, my life has changed tremendously in terms of family and just a lot of areas. And so I've had to, like you, Brian, trust in myself that I don't have to do everything,
Mm,
and I can let go of the control. And for those that know me, I have a large family, and I have children and grandchildren, and so I'm always hands on. But I had to kind of step back, and that was very hard for me. And so, just like what I've said before about the serenity prayer, is to the wisdom to know the difference between what I can control and what I cannot. And so that has been rough for me. But when I kind of got it, it was kind of feeling my groove, so to speak. It took so much weight off of me. Um,
mm,
Everybody still lived, and everybody still made, still made decisions, and I didn't have any input in anymore. And I kind of looked around and said, oh, okay, this is nice. I like it here.
mm,
I should have done this before, but I had to dive deeper into what I was doing to put so much mental stress on myself and emotional stress on myself. So I had a problem. I had a challenge with trusting that I don't have to be involved or control any of this. But I worked through it month by one month, and I'm gonna say this year, and then like I said, the last 3 months, I've really worked it, and it really has changed my life.
awesome.
It really has
Awesome.
changed.
Yeah.
That's
Chauntae, what
good.
about you?
I had to focus on trust, faith, and belief in myself. I had a hard time picking just one that I needed to focus on because imposter syndrome is so real, especially
It is such a real thing. Yeah.
when you're starting out. And so I focused on all three areas, trusting that I can do this work and I can help other people through what I've already been through. And then the faith in who I am as a person and who I am as a creation of God. And then just believe that what I said about the others, I can do it all. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will believe in you. And so, it's been mostly good. I've had some moments where I would waver, kind of like Brian, you said it's a roller coaster.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to give myself more highs than lows. I think that's a sign of growth. But there were some moments I just thought, man, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Or I should be so far along, or um, it's not working out exactly the way I planned. And there were some other things I discovered that got in the way of that. I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. So I couldn't pick one. I had to work in all three areas. So I've made some progress, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I know
would say, I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, Brian.
No, I was going to say Shantae and I over the past few months have actually, swapped some emails and just talking about how are you doing? I don't know. How are you
Yeah.
doing? And so, yeah, it is a process as you work your way through it.
Yeah.
And I
Did
would
you?
say, Chauntae, what I've said to Brian before, because when I came to Houston and started to promote Beautiful Girls, I had already had a sight on how it was supposed to go. And
Mm-hmm.
the environment and the demographic, I had it
Mm-hmm.
all planned out, right? And so it wasn't working like that for me. And I like you and Brian had got kind of discouraged until God kind of changed it, and I had to look at it differently and start thinking about what's my why? Like, what is my why? Like, am I doing this? Is it about my expectations, or is it about service? Like, is it really, Bridget? Is this really something? Is something you want to do, or is something you're purpose to do? And you have
Right.
to make a decision. And that's the same thing I was talking to him about. When God kind of turned it around, I was like, oh, okay, you're gonna do it this way, not the way you did it in Nacogdoches. You're gonna do it this way in Houston. Okay, I get it. Because if I had steadily tried to make it be the way I wanted it to be, the way I wanted it to be, and not what was needed and what was
Mm-hmm.
service needed, I would be so discouraged. And so I learned that, and I'm sure I learned it as a tool to help somebody else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with that. And it is interesting. And Bridget, you were right. Sharing that and having to just kind of get it reframed in your own mind is such a powerful thing. But it takes the courage and also some patience, right? Because
Right.
it's not an instant gratification kind of thing,
Right.
right? And then, so that's the other piece of it. You just kind of have
Right.
to work your way through it. Anything else on trust, faith, or belief before we move on to resilient spirit?
I want to just add briefly that in order to cultivate the trust and faith and belief in yourself, you have to stop looking at everybody else. That's kind of
Mm,
where I got caught up a bit, seeing how everybody else was doing things and seeing what I thought were their successes or what have you. And then having to realize that the plan God has for me is for me. And the plan that He has for them is for them. And they won't look the same. And, I was measuring myself against people who've been doing this for 20 plus years. I'm not supposed to look like them and do what they're doing and all of that. So I just wanted to add that I think it's really, really important to focus on yourself and what it is that you're supposed to do and not try to compare yourself to someone else.
yeah.
And just real quick, I have a funny story about that. So when I first started a mentor program, would go and look at, research other mentor programs and then other girl mentor programs. And I would actually snapshot their picture or their Facebook page or whatever. Then I would go and write notes about like what they're doing or whatever. And I wanted to do it just like them. And some of them weren't even in my state. And I wanted to do it just like that because it looked like it was working. And so when I started my organization, I could not find any of those notes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did I throw them away? And I was tearing up my office trying to find these notes. Like, this is what
Uh-huh.
I wanted to do. Now, what am I supposed to do now? I don't know nothing except for what they were doing. And so, what now? What am I supposed to do? And God started to give me the vision that He had for me and for
Mm-hmm.
building and beautiful girls. So I thought that was and I never did find those notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so weird, but yeah, that's my funny story about trying to look at other people and what they're doing and see how, in comparing ourselves to their success or to their progress, it usually doesn't work. Can have a mentor, and I have one, and I'm sure you guys have one. Also, we can't have a mentor to kind of guide us, but to compare ourselves, it just doesn't work to our advantage. It's just not fair for
Right.
us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that. And that's a great story because
Mm-hmm.
that's that plan of trying to figure it out. And I'm gonna copy this, but is that
Yeah.
really you, right? And
Right.
so now
Right.
you're starting down this road already, kind of on a false note,
Right.
which probably will make the journey even more difficult versus just
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure it out for yourself. So that's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the resilient spirit. And for me, what I had on my list was to focus on the journey, not the result, and to try to stay
Mm-hmm.
focused and be in that place of enjoying the moments as you go along that journey, not
Yeah.
trying to get too far ahead. Is kind of what Chauntae, what you were just saying about, you looking at other coaches and what they're doing, and but they've been doing it 20 years, so they should look like this or be this, have that, right, all structured. Uh, and obviously with VOV, it's a reasonably new thing, and oddly enough, the next week will be the 1 year anniversary of doing things like this. So hasn't even
Awesome.
been a year yet.
Congratulations.
So it's all very new. So trying to get used to that and being comfortable and just being honest with yourself to say, I'm still growing, I'm still learning. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take time to get there. And so that's part of that resiliency for me that I've really needed because I will start looking at the analytics and this and that and the other thing, and it's just like, ugh, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, don't go there. Stay where you are because you are at this part of the journey. You still have a lot more of it to go and appreciate what has happened to date. So
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
been my thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll say, in terms of cultivating a resilient spirit, I have really been I have progressed tremendously on feeling my feelings. And I
Mm,
think we talked about that when we talked about resilient spirit, feeling my feelings, because I am the oldest child of two, you know, the oldest granddaughter, the oldest cousin. I always took on this role of the leader, and so for me, it was like, take care of everybody and don't feel your feelings yet. And so it kind of built up in me until, I became this angry person or this smart mouth person because I just would snap,
mhm,
instead of feeling it at the moment. And so now I have learned to feel my feelings, and take those breaks. And even if it's a positive feeling, love intentionally, whoever that person or whoever those people are, love them intentionally, without expectation. And so, as I shared, today would be a year that my mom had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, this week it was to intentionally feel her love and intentionally feel my grief and my love and all those mixed in feelings without worrying about how anybody else was going to see it or take it, or I'm not everybody grieves differently, right? And
Right.
so I'm not that hard griever, because of my energy. I just choose to look at the bright side and and be happy about whatever journey was taken for my mom or whoever I've lost in the past. And so I stopped worrying about how I look to people. How does grief on me look to people? How does anger look? And so I started to feel those things, and then
Mm,
I just feel them, express them to the people that I needed to express them to, instead of holding it in. I will say I did not do well in planning a self-reflection day, um, because I was always trying to fill my day with something. And also, I always, show gratefulness and to God for everything. But feeling my feelings have been a big thing for me, and in setting healthy boundaries for the last,
mm, mhm,
especially, and exploring my feelings and and my role in different relationships or situations that turned out in a negative manner or a positive manner, what my role was, instead of the blame, which you did. And so that has really been good for me. I think that's going to be good for me here on out.
That's
excellent.
good. That's really good.
Yeah.
I having a psychology degree, I went back to the roots of the beginning of my secondary education, and I kind of akin what I do now with just human development. And in talking about being resilient, I think about babies when they're born. There are certain things they can do, there's certain things they can't do, but they're exactly where they're supposed to be at that moment, right? We don't expect a baby to walk and talk and crawl and eat solid foods. We don't expect that. And so in my business and my ministry, I'm still in that. Well, I'm not an infant anymore. I'll say I'm a toddler, but just controlling my expectations. As a baby, there are certain expectations, and then as you develop, those expectations grow and they develop with you. And so that helps me be resilient. So when I was trying to crawl and couldn't get up on my knees, so to speak, I gave myself the grace that I needed in knowing that right now, developmentally, this is where you're supposed to be. Master
Hmm.
those things that you're supposed to master when you're
Hmm.
in the infant stage. Master the things you're supposed to master when you're in the toddler stage, and so forth and so on. And so that's what's helped me be resilient. That's what's allowed myself to be gracious to myself, and it's helped pull me mentally or push me forward mentally, because now I don't have these unrealistic expectations that I'm supposed to be, a full grown adult. And I'm only 2, 3, 4 months old. And so that is truly, truly what has helped me be resilient. So now when I see things that didn't happen the way I wanted them to, I don't see it as a failure. I see it as something I haven't quite developed. And what can I
Hmm.
do to develop that skill or develop um, in that area? I'm like Bridget, I haven't done well in the self reflection days. I feel like I'm always on go. And so I do need to do better at allowing myself to self reflect. And what's so funny is that I talk about taking time to reflect with my clients. I build in this moment for them to reflect on their
Hmm.
progress and their goals and what they're doing, and I haven't done it for myself.
Let's
So
see. So,
that is, yeah, that is definitely an area that I need to work on in terms of being resilient.
yeah,
Same,
yeah,
same.
absolutely. I want to go back to something Bridget said because I didn't know we had that in common when we talk about being the oldest, and it's actually the same for me. So on both sides of my family, so my mom's side and my dad's side, I'm the firstborn grandchild, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as you go through life and get a little bit older, you don't realize kind of what that comes with until
Hmm.
you're in it, right? And
Hmm.
it's a push in a whole different space of having to try to be and do and all of that for multiple people in different levels and different ways. So I can really appreciate what you were saying about that. Any final thoughts on having a resilient spirit before we talk about play and rest?
Let's just go right on to the
Just
next.
just,
Yeah,
just
let's
dig
go.
into it, right? One the thing I had under cultivate, play, and rest with as far as my action plan, and that was being able to truly disconnect, and in doing so, not feel guilty about it, right?
Yeah.
Because that was my challenge, and still is a challenge, right? Because there's always something. I think that's what Chauntae was just kind of mentioning too, that you feel like you can do, or needs to be done, or should be done, or and that moment where you just like, you know what, I really just need to completely, mentally, emotionally, physically disconnect for a while. Uh, Truly be, as I said, a couch potato maybe, and just something totally mindless, right? And then you feel like, man, this is a waste of time. I should really be doing this. Get up, do that. Oh, this needs to be done. So you start hammering yourself, which creates this tension or anxiety within you. So trying to find a happy place or a balance with that has definitely been one of the quote unquote challenges for something that I put down that I need to be able to cultivate and be comfortable with that ability to disconnect.
Well, because these last 90 days caught me in my summer break, and I'm an educator, I will say that I had no problem with
Disconnecting.
play and rest. Thank you
Yeah. Yeah.
to education. And I started in May. So I did my full 90 days of play and rest. I will say that I cultivated a day of the week, maybe 2 days, or whatever, to restore, replenish, and rejuvenate. Actually, in May, I started doing that just so I would have energy for June and July. And so I had no problem with that. Now, in the next 90 days, get back with me and we may have a different story because school will be starting and everything will be busy up into the holidays. So I did carve out a day. I did carve out some days, even in my travel, that I just restored and replenished. I did spend time with family and friends that who genuinely love me and accept me for who I am, the quirky sunshine person that I am. And I did get some sleep, like too much sleep. So I'm having to set my alarm clock. I couldn't even remember what the clock was for, what it was for the alarm on my phone. I was like, what does it look like? I don't remember. And someone said it's a clock. I'm like, oh, it is a clock. I hadn't set my alarm in 2 months. So I forgot what you do. How do you set it? So I did get some sleep. I got a lot of sleep, and this week I'm going to work on waking up at the time that I'm supposed to. So I'm sorry if anybody has a different story. I got enough sleep and rest and play for all
All
three
of us.
of us.
That's excellent. Thank you.
I appreciate that sleep and rest that you got because I didn't get any. This is probably the area that I would say was a big fat fail for me. I work all the time and just I'm more in alignment with Bryan on this than I am with you, Bridgit. Sorry about that. Even weekends are family time for me, and so one of the things my husband and I do is we watch all these shows. We something sounds good. That's what we do together. We watch shows together. And sadly, even while I'm supposed to be engaging in the show with him, or even when my daughter comes in, I'm at my computer. I have my computer in my lap, or I'm typing, I'm working on because this has to be done. And then if I start feeling guilty about that time that I'm kind of taken away from them, I put it away. But in my head, I'm like you, Bryan. I should be doing this. I should be
Mm,
doing that. It needs to be done. Even when I'm asleep and I don't get enough sleep, I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm writing things that I've dreamed about that have come to my mind that I need to do the next day. So this
mm,
area, play and rest, it big fat zero. I grade myself a big fat zero, and I need to get better. And I need to I shouldn't say get better. I need to give myself permission, like you said, Bryan, to rest and not feel guilty about it.
mhm,
Um, I say all the time, man, I have big dreams. I'm just chasing my dreams. It takes a lot of work. As an entrepreneur, there's so many things you have to do, and I haven't prioritized that rest. And so I need to definitely gift myself with that rest. So yeah, I'll redo that one for the next 90 days because it has not gone well.
I can appreciate that 1,000%. And it is. It takes, as you said, I think a recurring theme that at least especially for the ones for me so far, is just patience, right? Just having
Mm-hmm.
the true patience to be able to
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote be still or wait or just let it happen as it's supposed to organically happen, right?
Right.
So that's a recurring theme for me so far.
And the
Anything
truth
else?
is, I'm sorry, Brian.
No, go ahead.
The truth is, if we allow ourselves to rest and rejuvenate, we probably do the work so much better and so much quicker because we're refreshed. Our minds are rested. But no, we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, even past exhaustion.
And I've learned that. I mean, I implore for anybody to learn that if you keep doing that, you will have this mental breakdown, and it will force you to have that time to refresh
Mm-hmm.
because just right at the point where you can't do anything else. Your thoughts are you just really foggy, and so make yourself take that time. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
even in the next 3 months, of course, I'll be more busier because of school, but I have to assign those days and that time to rest and restore and replenish. Because if I don't, I will be headed to this, downward spin, like to a
Right.
mental breakdown, basically.
Right.
Right, right, agreed. So let's bring the presentation back in just to remind those who are watching where we are on this and what we're talking about. So back to we're reviewing our action plans that we kind of set into place when we met 3 months ago. And what we're talking about now is what has happened, what has transpired, what kind of success or challenges have we had over the last 90 days. So we've talked about the trust, faith, and belief part of it, the resilient spirit. We just talked about the play and rest. So let's move on to that calm and stillness, which sounds like we all might have struggled with, except for Bridget because she was on vacation for 3 months.
No,
Um,
I
but
still have a struggle in that. I still do.
yeah, so for me, when I got under that, um, and it's exactly what we were saying earlier. And I wrote this exact word: "It's accept that you are where you're supposed to be." Right. And for me, that from a calmness and stillness, because if you can't accept that you are, where you're supposed to be in the journey and in the process and in the learning and whatever else is going on in your situation, it really is hard to be still, be calm, because you feel like you need to stir things up, or it needs to be a storm, or however you want to look at that, versus actually being smooth and being able to follow a straight line. And all you want something to almost like be out of whack, so you feel like, okay, I'm accomplishing something, or I'm doing something, or I'm feeling something, versus that time of actually just being calm and still. So that for me is one thing I've been really working on myself mentally, and with some of the emotions and the spiritual things too, is just to say, be calm. It's okay to be still, and be okay with that. So that's for me is what it's been for sure.
I will say, even though I've been off and vacationing, I had been struggling with internal calmness, internal stillness. And I think we talked about this before, during the 90 days, I put as one of the goals was identify the emotions that are likely to spark my reactivity and practice non-reactive emotions. And so
Mhm.
that is what I have been doing for the last 3 months, is not letting other people's words, other people's actions spark a negative reaction or a negative emotion. And so I think about 2 months ago, I posted off of TikTok, and I've been speaking this out loud, even the other day. I said this to my son: if it doesn't feel like peace, if it doesn't feel like love, if it doesn't feel like kindness, if it doesn't feel like joy, I don't want it. And so
Mhm.
when situations have come up in the last 3 months, and before I react, I have to decide, is it making me feel these ways? And if it's not, then I need to decide what will be my response, what will be my reaction. And I was talking with my son, and it got a little heated a little bit. And I said, you know what? Let's go back, because
Mhm.
if it doesn't feel like peace, I don't want it. And so let's go back so that my reaction or my response won't feel like anything else but peace. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 3 months. And that's ideal. It may not always happen like that because you may get into some heated situations or heated conversations
Yeah.
or with more than one person at a time, or you might be in a situation where you can't stop and think if it doesn't do this, and this. But I am intentional about training my thought process to not respond in in a reactive emotion, but to sit back and say, okay, how can I respond to this? There won't where it will be non-reactive based on what the situation is. And so that is what I've been doing. And it's been hard because I'm an emotional person,
Mhm.
just by life, not nature, but by life. I'm an emotional person. And so my first response is to be really happy, really sad. It's no middle ground for me. And so that has been a struggle for me to say, okay, stop, don't respond.
Mhm.
Is it doing this, and this? And if it's not, then what should your response be? And so that is what I've been working on for the last 3 months.
Excellent.
That's good. That's really
Yep.
good. I am naturally a calm person. So the calmness comes fairly easy to me. Um, what I've been poor at is keeping all of those other emotions inside and not expressing them. And so
Mhm.
then it, it it's more damaging to me. So to others, I'm really, really calm, but internally, I have a lot going on because there were times that I didn't feel safe enough to express or those emotions, or want to be vulnerable enough to express those emotions. And so I guess if you look at it on the surface, what I just said doesn't seem to make sense because I said I'm naturally calm, but then I have all this internal stuff going on. I'm naturally calm with other people and in situations that people are normally, heightened and frightened or what have you. But when it comes to things that affect me, then I have this inner turmoil going on. And so I've been working on recognizing what's going on inside of me and being free enough to express whatever it is. And there's always an appropriate way to express your emotions, whether they are, their anger or frustration or happiness or whatever. I've often put myself in a box to protect other people. And so people that were intimidated by my personality, I would scale myself back so that I wouldn't be intimidating.
Mhm.
Um, or people that expected a certain thing out of me, I would put myself in that box. So I've been working on expressing. So just like Bridget said, knowing those emotions, identifying those emotions. I was good at that, but just expressing them. And so I've been better. I talked about not resting earlier, and when I'm tired is when my fuse is shorter, and so that I'm like, okay, you are frustrated because the dog is barking. The dog is supposed to bark. He's designed to bark. And so I had to kind of scale myself back and say, wait a minute, you are experiencing these things or feeling these things or reacting to your fatigue. You're not reacting to the other person and what they're doing. You're reacting to your fatigue. You need to get that in check.
That
Um,
is
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's what just really being um I don't know, emotionally intelligent and starting with me and knowing why I'm reacting and responding the way that I am, and then why I'm not. If I'm not, it's because I'm not comfortable. Why are you not comfortable? Are you putting yourself in a box? Are you not comfortable for fear of what the other person is going to say or think? Are you not comfortable because traditionally you've been told that's not what a woman is supposed to do, or whatever the situation may call for? So that's been kind of my work around cultivating the calm and the stillness, which on the outside comes natural, but on the inside is just
Mhm.
turmoil or
I
tumultuous.
love that. Finding the reason why. Finding the reason why. That's what I got out of what you said. What's the
Mhm.
real reason behind you being so frustrated that dog was barking? So finding the reason why, because it's always not always. It is sometimes another reason why
Mm-hmm.
we're so angry, why we get so frustrated, and it's an inner. It's it's a self-evaluation that we have to do to find those things out, and so that we can go grow from there. I don't know, Brian, if you were going to say, mention what the audience member had said about that. It was a very important tool. She said, I've been controlling my anger and emotions by knowing my triggers,
Right.
moving
Yep.
myself when I notice them,
That
and
was
that is very important. Knowing your triggers, that has a lot to do with being self-aware,
Yep.
and
hmm
what is going to set you off.
hmm
And it's even more important, and even more shows your strength when you can remove yourself
Right.
from that, because we can know it and be like, okay, I'm about to set it off, they about to make me mad, and we still stay there in it,
Right.
to
Right.
identify your triggers and then remove yourself. That takes some strength. So kudos to you, audience member. Kudos to you.
Yep. And it's important too. I think a lot of those triggers come from things that actually you don't control anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
other piece, is to be able to process through it far enough to understand that, I'm letting this get me just totally spun out of shape. But what is it that I can control about it? And 9 times out of 10, probably not much. Right. So,
Right.
and so getting to that place of being able to just put it down, and you know what, I can't change it anyway. So
Right.
stop focusing it, because actually you are the one who's giving it energy and power over you. It's not
Right.
taking it from you. You're
Right.
Right.
actually giving it the power and the energy. So
Exactly.
getting to that point of being able to understand that is one of the key pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Easily said than done, yes,
Right.
but that is the reality of it, is you're giving it that power and control over you. So
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
yeah. So thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. So we're down to our last one. So cultivating meaningful work. And I will jump in to just say that that's what we're doing right now. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, a lot of my meaningful work is revolving around what I do with Village of Voices and the VOV network. And for me, it's, as I put, just giving back or sharing my knowledge, my experience. I'll even be brazen enough to use the word wisdom, and put that out there and say, that's what I am about. That's what VOV is about, is trying to use what I have as the vessel and as the tool to help others, self excellence, self improvement, be their best possible self. So that's the meaningful work that I'm focused on. But what's the challenge within that? Because yes, it is, a mission that I'm on, but this kind of goes back to a recurring theme we've talked about today, and that's keeping that why, as we've talked about, clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because and as I started this whole conversation with today, you've got life changes, you've got career changes, you've got family issues, you've all these different things are coming in the top of the funnel. That never stops, right? So for me, the issue with your why is your why can shift
Right.
depending on what's in your funnel and what you're having to process through and what's happening in your life. But
Right.
trying to stay grounded with whatever that why is for you, and then them being able to translate that out into what your meaningful work is, and keep it applied and keep it focused and keep it moving forward. That's where the true work comes in within you, is to be able to process your way through it. So for me, that's what I've learned, and what I continue to work on day after day after day. It is a journey. It's not a destination that you're going to arrive and you're there. I think
Absolutely.
you're always working it, because your environment's ever changing. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say, the three things that I said I wanted to do, or planned my goal to do, I was on point on two, but I would say the one that I struggled with, and just because I gave myself 2 months off, so it was to finish what I started.
mhm.
There were some books I said, poetry books, some journals, and that I was writing and that I did not complete, and so it was going to be important for me to finish what I started. However, something happened in the beginning of June where I decided I wasn't going to have a serious thought in my head for the next 2 months. And that's what I did. I don't even think I thought about anything. I wrote down everything I spent so I didn't have to think about how much money I had to do, left to do things with. I just didn't. I just didn't have a serious thought, and it was so relaxing. So I make no apology for not, completing those things that I've started, because if God gives me, I still have time. But what I did on the days that I did sit down in front of my computer at my desk is I did work on the plans and the goals for my organization. And so I did set out some time for that in between travel and fun and whatnot, because that was going to be important for me when August came, that I was still on track and not having to rush and get back on track. So I did write my whole vision, for my organization and my life, and I presented to God for direction, like I said I would, and schedule an action plan to make that happen. So I'm proud of myself in that progress. However, I did not finish some of the things that I started. But if I still have time, I will.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had to think about, in terms of meaningful work, meaningful to who, and I hope my response to this kind of goes in line with what the question that was just being posed about, does yourself your is being your best self being the real you, or being the version of who you want,
Who you would be the most.
who would be the most successful. Sorry, my eyes kind of crossed there. Um, I had to think about meaningful to who. I
Mm-hmm.
think the first part of my life, I did those things that were meaningful to everybody else, and they weren't necessarily meaningful to me. And so
Mm-hmm.
I have been focusing these last 90 days on doing the work that was most meaningful to me. And in turn, it helped those people that I wanted to reach. I had to be true to myself in order to be true to the people that God had assigned to me. And so I think when you're being the real you, you are going to be successful for you. I lost so much time, and I lost so much of myself trying to be who everybody else wanted me to be. And so I think this has been, in the time that I have been in this business, this time has been the best, because I've been focusing on those things that meant the most to me. And it's just ironic. This is when I get the most inbox messages, and I get the most emails, and I get people coming up to me to say, that thing that you said or that thing that you did really touched me in this way. And those were the things that meant the most to me. I was being true to myself. I was being true to who I was created to be. And in turn, I was able to come into alignment with those people that I was really supposed to touch. So I think that being your best self and being the real you, they will lead you to what is successful. So meaningful work, it all ties into what's been said earlier. Not watching other people, not copying other people, being true to yourself. Um, in life, my life just means so much more now because I'm doing what's meaningful to me.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if Brian is going to mention it, but we did a session on being your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
This ties into that, because when you start to know your truth and be your authentic self, the people that were meant to
Hmm.
gravitate towards you are going to gravitate towards you. So think about being somebody else or trying to be somebody else. That's not who God made you. So the right people for you are not going to gravitate towards you, because you're not being that person
Right,
that God
right.
had called you to be. And so when you start to become authentic and knowing who you are and living that out loud, then those right people can see that, and then they will gravitate towards you. So that all ties in. Truly a beautiful answer, because the version of your best self is the operative word is self.
Hmm.
It's self, who you are.
Right.
We start to become, sometimes we can be like other people, try to compare ourselves to other people where we almost look like the other person, but that's not self. That's them or
Hmm.
us, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not self. And so that's our word. So yeah, that was a great answer. And if you have not, audience, go back and look at that session on your being your authentic self, or
Hmm.
the audacity to be authentic, because it does take some courage to do that.
It
Um,
does.
Mm-hmm.
out in that way. But man, the reward is
Hmm.
gratifying. Is
Hmm.
gratifying. and it leads you on this successful road, this successful journey. Therefore, I mean, moving forward.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's
Success is different for every person. Success
yes,
isn't always having the most money. I mean, we see people that have a ton of money and, they're not
jumping
being
up. Yeah,
fulfilled.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not being fulfilled. They're still battling demons. So success is different. The three of us have a different definition of success,
Mhm.
and we're able to come together as a unit and as a team. And then, that success, as a unit looks
Mhm,
different. And so you have to, be mindful of who you're measuring your success with and who you're measuring it by.
mhm,
Just so much to unpack and whatever you just shared, both of you, Bridget and Chauntae. I'll start with Chauntae's piece of it and talking about trying to reconcile that who piece, right? That who am
Mhm,
I doing my why for, and
mhm,
the self awareness that has to come from that, and then that's where the real rub comes in, is getting to that point of understanding self well enough to be able to determine what side of the fence these things do fall on, and why they fall on the different places that they do, and then work to start to get comfortable with being this way versus that way. Because, and Bridget, as you said in our session about the audacity to be authentic, there are going to be those, as we said in that session, they're going to be pissed off because
mhm.
it's like, who are you? I mean, what's this new person, or why are you now this way? But that's because you've shifted from being that person that's there and people pleasing, because we did a session talking about people pleasing as well,
Mhm.
where now you are standing in your truth and being truly who you are, and letting that be what resonates. And some people are going to gravitate to it, as Bridget said. Other people are not going to be happy about it, but so be it. And
Mhm.
that's just kind of the way it is sometimes. So I think those are all great answers. I appreciate that.
yeah.
What else before we wrap up with the last one on the list, which is meaningful work?
I think we've covered it all. It's all about what's
Mhm.
meaningful for you. I mean, it's your goals. It's not theirs. So they can know whoever they is, and I say that to my students. Who's they? And
Yeah.
nobody can point who they is. You know who they are. Okay. Well, they said I should be this far ahead, and they did that, and they. Well, who is they? Because your
Mhm.
goals are your goals. So you're the only person that can determine whether you're progressing or even whether you're successful in them.
As you ladies both know, I am kind of working on a mastery process that I'm kind of going through, and the gentleman that's kind of leading that uses this term, and I love it, and I'm going to steal his term for today. And he basically says, "Don't get caught up in goop." And he says this is a natural thing that we all do. And he said, "Goop," so GOOP, and that is the good opinion of other people. He says if that's how you end up living your life, you're stuck in goop, because
Yeah.
everything that you're doing is in reaction to, or expecting a reaction, or wanting to try to control, or whatever else, the good opinions of other people. And that's one thing that has definitely resonated with me, that he shared about, "Hey, stay out of that goop," right? And so it's like a mental trigger. Now I can hear someone talk about something, and yes, I may have a thought or an opinion, and it's like, yeah, but is it really relevant for me? And
Yeah.
so just
Yeah.
don't even step in the goop. Just stay out of it, right?
That's good.
Kind of thing. So I really loved how he used that as an analogy, and it really does work from a trigger standpoint to stay away from the goop. Uh,
That's
so
the
let's move
beauty.
on.
I
Go
would
ahead.
just say that's the beauty of texting and emailing. You get to highlight that and cut it out. Or no, I'm not gonna say that. It don't have nothing to do with me. You get to erase. Words are powerful, so you have to stop and think, right? And no, that doesn't have anything to do with me. So let me, so we have to take those times to decide: do we want to be a part of that group? Do we, okay? I've written a paragraph on a text, then I have to read it again to say,
I know
no,
you like.
Mhm.
this is not. I don't have
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's the power of words, and how we speak to ourselves.
Self awareness is a key thing, and as you know, Bridget, that's one of the big recurring themes in everything we've done over these past months. So, trying to get to
Yeah.
that place.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, quick review, action plan. So, we've talked about what are you going to plant in your garden, right? From a cultivating standpoint, trust, faith, belief, resilient spirit, uh, play, rest, being calm and stillness, and then also meaningful work. So let's go to the summary for today. And this basically brings us to our question of the day. And it says, based on our discussion today, and we'll run through this individually, but also especially for our audience out there who might have been putting together or already had an action plan, um, what have you decided to add or remove from your garden, and why? So uh, I'll start and share what I want to put out there, and you know, close this out so they can see us a little bit better. So for me, it's all about the acceptance piece, right? Because acceptance, accepting where you are, accepting the process, just acceptance, right, is the one thing. So for me, that's actually what I'm going to, and this is going to sound strange, but I think you'll understand how I'm approaching it. That's one of the things that I'm going to remove from my list. And why I'm gonna and how I'm looking at that is, I want to turn the page. Let's just say that acceptance is done. I have accepted. It's not no longer a challenge. So I'm turning the page on acceptance. I'm pulling that out of the plan. What I want to add or continue to have more focus on within the plan is going to be patience, and truly getting comfortable with having the patience that I need to have. So I want to grow a really big, tall patience tree. That's going to take some work, but that is one of the things that I want to plant
Yeah.
in my garden.
I will say I'm keeping everything, and I'm gonna steadily work on my garden, cultivating those things until they're all full bloom, and then plant some more. So I don't have anything I want to take out. I think they're all still work in progress for me. And even though it's been 90 days and we're reflecting back, I think I want to keep everything. As far as adding anything, I think I have enough on my plate. So I'm not adding anything. I think I've covered in my cultivating, I think I've covered my whole life. And as far as my work and my play and my family and my friends, and I've covered those all that ground. So I'm going to keep everything as is and just continue to work on that.
Excellent.
That's good.
Thank you for sharing that, Bridget. Chauntae, what do you think?
I want to remove my masks. Like, I wear a lot of masks um, so that I can fit in with everybody else's ideals, and everybody else's
Mm,
desires. Brian, I saw that face when I said that. I want to remove the masks of what I think everybody else wants from me and of me. If we're honest with ourselves, we do wear a lot of I'm going to put on this face because I'm in this crowd. I'm going to put on this face because I'm this age. I'm going to put on this face because I'm, this race. So this is my religion. And so we wear these masks of who we think other people, think we should be. So I want to remove a lot of that. I spend a lot of time hiding behind the expectations of others. And, I'm this age, and so this is what I should be doing. This is how I should be dressing, and this is how I should be speaking. And so I want to remove all of those masks and add more of who I am, just as Chauntae. Who is Chauntae? Who is she um, authentically? I teach a lot on self awareness and emotional intelligence, and I do that because that's what helped me thrive. Is when I
mhm,
started being me. I love when Brian, when you and Bridget did the whole authenticity piece. It just aligns so much with who I am, what I want to be. But I love when you said having the audacity. I am going to add the audacity of being me. Who do I think I am? Let me show you who I think I am,
mm,
because I spent so much time behind those masks. So I'm removing the masks, the um, the pretenses, and like the living up to other people, and I'm adding more of me, and being selfish a bit in doing what I want to do and how I want to do it, and it's going to be for other people, but that's because that's who I am. Who I am is a giver. Who I am is a helper. who I am as a teacher and an influencer. And so we all win when I start being true to myself.
Let me just give you some kudos on that because let me tell you, you're not my age yet, but it will take age, it would take numbers off your age when you start to do it. Let me tell you why. I know that for sure. And I have maybe three close circles of friends, right? And they all will describe me the same. Brian will probably, he's known me a long time. He knows I'm the same way everywhere I go, at
Yes,
work, at church, at
yes,
play, at meetings, on podcasts. I'm the same way. I have not put on but one mask for a couple of years now. And so I will tell you, Chauntae, it will change your life. It will change your life. And the people around you will love you for it. They'll be grateful for it because they know what they're going to get. And when we talked about the audacity to be authentic, I literally said, what you see here is what you get. I'm not ever different. With different, I have a different economically status of friends, right? You know, everybody is different. My social statuses, they're different, but I am the same. I come and I show up the same way all the time. And so it would take years off of you.
mhm,
I can't, well, I'm older, but I feel so much younger when I started to do that, and I feel like I look so much younger on the inside and maybe on the outside. But it will change your life. So kudos to you for
yeah.
that.
It
Kudos.
already has. It already has. And people are in shock and they're in awe because they thought the person they knew was, well, you were great. Well, I was great because I was great to you because I was fitting those, those boxes of who you wanted me to be. Now I'm great because I'm me. And so it's been fantastic so far.
You don't even have to figure out who, and I talked about that as well. You don't even have to figure out which one you're going to be at that time.
Exactly.
Show up as who you are authentically, and you
Exactly.
don't have to figure out, okay, well, I'm with these people, I'm with these people, so I need to be this way, because that's exhausting.
It is. It is.
That
Yes, it
is
is.
exhausting to be that. So just show up, and you don't ever have to remember what you said and how you said it, and you don't have to always think about, okay, am I politically correct? Okay, well, I could be that way with them because they know me from way back. I'm just who I am. And so I
Hmm.
don't have to think about it. I just am. And so
Yeah.
that is great. That's great. Brian, you want to say something?
Yeah, I actually want to wrap it up and summarize. But what's beautiful about what Chauntae shared, and Bridgit, how you chimed in on top, it actually takes us right back to where we started today.
Hmm.
And the whole premise of this is about your mental bandwidth, both from a mental and emotional standpoint, right? And that whole piece that she just said about taking off the mask and being more authentic and being true to herself, um, how that plays out from a mental standpoint is enormous. I mean, it's
Hmm.
a gigantic thing because the stress and the anxiety
Yes.
and all of that you go through when
Yes.
you're shifting from environment to environment to group, to people, and trying to morph yourself into these different masks and personalities and personas and whatever else, however else you want to look at it,
Hmm.
and not having that is a huge weight of what's going into that funnel from an
Hmm.
emotional bandwidth
Hmm.
standpoint. So definitely kudos to you for that, and it's a great step. And if there's our listeners out there, if there's one thing that we can definitely advise, and as Bridget was just saying, it will change your life literally if you can just what I am is what I am, right?
Hmm.
That old saying,
Hmm.
and truly get there because it's freeing. It is so freeing.
It
And
is.
Bridget's thing that she talks about all the time is don't mess with my peace because I'm at a place of peace. I'm at a place of peace with myself and my world and my environment. And that's what I want to try to maintain. So if there's anything that we should say from a mental bandwidth standpoint, let's all try to start to move in that direction, put our plans together, follow those action steps that we put down so that we can get to that place of freedom and that place of peace. So that's really what I want to share at the end.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I want to thank all of our audience that joined us today. Ladies, this was incredible. Thanks for sharing where we've been for the last 90 days. And I
Yes,
think what we'll probably do is let this ride to the end of the year and we'll do a year end summary. I think that'll be awesome. So we'll come
sounds
back
great.
maybe November, December and say, this is where I started the year and who I was and what it was all about. And now that I've put some work in, this is what I look like and what my world looks like and how it's changed for the better. Because
Yeah,
I'm sure these things will make a difference. And then, as we've said, definitely if you have not seen it, we have an episode which is The Audacity of Authenticity. Absolute must watch because it will give you a lot of framework to work from as you do put your action plan together and move forward. So that's it. That's all I have.
all right.
Until
Great.
next time, everyone, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye now.
Bye.